um, classes that are half online, half in person.
Hmm.
And the in-person or the online class, you always have to wait a few minutes for people to come in.
Exactly. I'm in law school right now, and
Oh,
so thankfully
nice.
we have most of our classes in person because
Yeah.
remote it's just too difficult like to do the hybrid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's well, they do it at Hunter because they want to expand the number of classrooms that are available.
Mm,
To sort of, so there's like a room that I occupy one day, someone else occupies the day that I'm online, that kind of thing.
that makes it like flip-flopping basically for
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, good evening.
hey,
Um,
good evening.
Hi,
Hello.
Addison. Hi, Mr. William. I'm one of the co-chairs as well
Great.
of this committee. Yes, looking forward to hearing you.
Great. Thank you. And Addison, I'm a geographer. I'm trying to figure out where your
Oh
background is.
yes,
That's Third Ave, I guess, somewhere.
it
Is that
is
right?
Third Avenue. Can you
Yeah.
get the street? This was a while ago now. It's
Hmm.
definitely pre 2022, I think.
Is that up in the mid 70s somewhere?
It is.
Okay. Actually, one of
Um,
my sons lives in a walk up above these, what is it, Citronella or something like that?
Citarella.
Citarella,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So
Yes.
that would be his walk up right.
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
be his walk up right there.
Yeah, that's why it looks familiar. And then
Yep.
I think the building next to it are gone, and
Yep.
there's a big building which actually I can see from my office. Um, and I'm a Mets fan, so I know that oh, what's his name? Um, who's the shortstop for the Mets? Sorry to get
Francisco Lindor.
yeah, Francisco Lindor like bought the penthouse or something
Yeah.
in that building.
So that would be this building right here. They
Right.
put up that taller building right here. So
Yes. Yes.
75th and then 76 is like here-ish.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah. Actually, my office is, I'm sitting in my office actually at 68th and Lex, and I have a northeast view, so I can see that new building.
Very nice. Hi, Bryce. Good to see you yesterday.
Hi, good to see you. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Bryce.
Hi.
All right. I think we can get started with the
Let's go.
festivities of the evening. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the Sanitation and Environment Committee for February of 2026. We're so glad to have everyone here today. I'm joined by Sahar Hussein, who's my fellow co-chair, and Lori Boras is also from the board. So thank you all for coming today, and thank you to our guests, Professor Solecki and Bryce from Councilmember Maloney's office. So we really appreciate your partnership and for being here tonight. So we wanted to start off our agenda with a discussion of sidewalk cleanliness near the Met Museum, which is why we have a representative from Councilmember Maloney's office. And I guess, perhaps it's a bit of a misnomer because I think sort of the discussion I'd love to have is more sort of about sidewalk cleanliness generally with respect to, bird feeding birds, and the resulting crumbs that get left on the street and the excess of birds in the area that then create bird waste on the street, right? So sort of a whole host of environmental ramifications to that issue. So, this came from the fact that I've received a number of complaints, particularly around the Met Museum, but I also know that this is happening near the 72nd Street subway station on the Q train. And so, what I'm hoping to do today is work with the public, my fellow committee members, and Councilmember Maloney's office to brainstorm perhaps solutions around this. So, we'll kick off that conversation. I'll start with John, who's going to give us the rules of the road, and then I'll add some additional ground rules for our discussion.
Good evening. Welcome, everyone. If it's your first time joining us virtually, you'll notice that you're currently muted, and you'll remain muted throughout the agenda, except for the committee co-chairs, Sahar and Addison, and the speakers who speak for the agenda. Following the presentation, as we move through the agenda, the co-chairs will call on members of the public wishing to speak. You can participate by pressing the raise hand feature below, and do not press the wave or thumbs up button feature, as those will disappear. And do not press the raise hand feature a second time, and those will also disappear. If you're calling on your phone, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. Be on the lookout for a prompt asking you to confirm unmuting once the co-chairs call on you. The chat is available to support order only and is not available for questions to access the co-chairs as they will not see the chat. If you're using an older version of Zoom, please go to React menu, Persons menu, or the More feature buttons where you will find the raise hand feature there. If you're planning to speak during this meeting, please make sure to rename yourself for your first and last name so we may know who is speaking during this meeting. Please do not raise your actual hand or wave the screen as we have to see you, of course. Chat room tech support, thank you again for attending.
Awesome. Thank you, John, so much for that. And then I'll just add like before I open up the discussion for everyone, want to just give a couple of rules of the road that I want to add to that. So first of all, whenever we're addressing, just make sure to address it to one of the co-chairs so that we can prevent crosstalk. Second, I'll go to members of the public first, and then I'll go to committee members, and then we'll come back for seconds. So once you speak, I'll ask you to hang back until everyone's spoken, and then everyone can sort of join the conversation again. And then also just want to be mindful, let's not single any particular individual out, because this is an issue that's obviously, affected sort of in multiple different areas. So it's not just one person contributing to this. So with that, I wanted to open up the discussion to the public to see if there was any thoughts about how we might address the issue of cleanliness near the Met. I mean, I guess just for some context, some of the stuff that I've noticed personally based off of complaints that I've received and then going to the neighborhood specifically is that near the Met, there's a number of people who are feeding the birds. This creates an influx of birds who come and hang out near the Met, which then means that they're flying around, and then that means that they are pooping on the sidewalk, and that's sort of creating a cleanliness issue for the neighborhood, in addition to just the cleanliness issue of the bird feed itself that's on the floor. So if people have thoughts, reflections, additional comments, places we should look out for, be happy to take those.
So we have Danielle over here, Addison.
Yeah, we can go to Danielle first. Yeah, and people can just jump in when they want to.
Yeah, hi. So I joined before on the phone, but it wasn't allowing me to speak up. I have we're here on the Upper East York Avenue, and I just really wanted to voice that since the snowstorm, it's been a really big issue with sanitation. It's also across the Met, it's citywide, but there's something that really has to be done in order to escalate. Understand that we did have snow. It was a problem with removal, but for us, it's really becoming not only is it diminishing the quality of life, but it's become very excessive at this point. And I just don't know where we need to escalate this from. I get these posts, people are turning to me. It's all over the Upper East Side Facebook group. So it just really, really needs to be addressed. And I don't know what's going to help, whether it's sun or rain at this point, but it just seems like the manpower of the Upper East Side is just not really cutting it. So I just really wanted to voice that in terms of constituents and residents of the neighborhood.
Thank you so much for that, Danielle.
Garbage. Yep.
Yeah, of course. I guess one first initial reflection that I have is perhaps, John, we can reach out to DSNY to just see if they can help us out in addition to continuing to call 311 about that. I know Carol raised her hand, so I wanted to call on her.
Just want to add, didn't Valerie say something yesterday in reference to this, John? Do you have any details?
In regards to usually how we deal with receiving those, usually we tell constituents
Cleanliness.
cleanliness in referring to snow clear up, or
No, in general. Did you get any information? Like, did you receive anything in at the office?
we can look into it. I can look into it at least on our end.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's go to Carol. Uh-oh. You should see your prompt on mute. Do you see that? Yes. Uh-oh.
You receive it now?
There it is. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you all for having this meeting. This is a constant issue. And as Danielle just said, it seems that with the snow, people just decided they don't need to clean up after their dogs. So it's impossible. In fact, this morning, it's not just the streets. It seems to be everywhere. This morning, I went to the post office, and the window at one of the desks, they had a sign, "No dogs." And I said, "Why is there no dog sign?" And she said, "Because people bring their dogs in, and there's poop all over the post office." So there's like a misconnect with some people, not all dog walkers, because some dog walkers are responsible, but there's a disconnect with some people who just feel entitled to have a pet and not be responsible for that pet and not clean up after it. And then the fact that the onus is on building owners and community to clean up after these people is mistaken. There has to be some push where these people get a wake-up call that there's enforcement on behalf of the city. The city needs to take a more active role. I don't know if you want to start actually finding people, send people out undercover and start finding people who aren't cleaning up after their dogs in high traffic areas. The same with people who are feeding birds. That's another issue that we're having problems with. I'm on the Upper East Side on 72nd and the cul-de-sac. So it's high traffic for dogs and now for birds. And I learned the other day, because we had to call exterminators, that they informed me that they had treated one of the hospital for special surgery. So they put treatments up on to repel the pigeons and the gulls. So now they're all moving up this way. And so when people start feeding the birds, they start to accumulate, and then you can't get rid of them. Then they start roosting in your windows, the buildings, on the air conditioners, et cetera, and it becomes a major problem. And I agree with you, the level of animal feces, bird and dog, it's overwhelming, and it just cannot be on. We cannot have our building staff, for example, out there 24/7 hosing down the sidewalks and picking it up. And if you tried to ask somebody politely, they go at you. So I think we really need involvement on behalf of the city. If they start licensing dogs, they enforce the policy of dogs having licenses, maybe that would help. And then they could start fining them instead of just, and also use that money towards keeping, helping dogs in shelters and whatnot. And also having the dogs be healthier, because it's not just people that are tracking it in. When you go home, you have to take off your shoes, et cetera, and leave everything by the door. But even the dogs are tracking it in. So I can't imagine that good dog walkers are happy about having their pets walk through that stuff. It's everywhere. It's just out of control. So I am begging Department of Sanitation or whoever it is that does the enforcement, that they do something actually to either start finding people, have people go take their dogs to the actual curb the way they used to many years ago, so that at least it stays off the sidewalks. Something has to be done. It's really out of control. And I know that the proposal for the bags, but people don't even care. Even with the bags, they just don't care. They are just irresponsible. And it has to be, they need education. It's too much for our staff and just the neighborhood. I can't stay on top of it. I'm sure nobody else can. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much for having this meeting.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for that. One thing that I'd want to flag is that we did have and I forget if you were there, Carol, we did have our meeting 2 times ago about the dog waste issue in the neighborhood. And so we're hoping actually to get Speaker Menon's office. Obviously, she was working on a dog waste legislation. We'd love an update from her office about where that stands. So we're definitely working on that. And then good to know that the 72nd Street cul-de-sac is also another place that we should watch out for with respect to bird waste as well. I saw Danielle had her hand up. Did you have a comment?
I was going to address the dog baggy situation. Um, I honestly, I'm at a loss of what to do anymore because all I know is that they have to get fined in the moment by actual police
Mhm.
officers are super slim. Other than starting like a shaming program, I really don't know what's going to deter them. But I think a lot of people are like, back to your point, Carol, I think they're just uneducated about the germs and the disease that this causes. We also spoke about how this brings on more rats. I don't think people are aware. And I think honestly, it's just this mentality of it'll go away, it'll wash away, somebody else will take care of it. But, aside from being a community board member myself, this is a quality of life. This is really impacting us. It's getting to the point where it's just nauseating, absolutely nauseating to go outside. I feel like dirty when I come home. It's so gross. And it's getting worse and worse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I saw Bryce nod. I hate to put you on the spot, but I didn't know if you had any thoughts about stuff that you've been hearing just from your perspective inside.
Well, I mean, I think we've hit exactly on the problem, and we have spoken with DSNY. This is probably it's hard to think of an infraction that is harder to enforce. I don't want to be in the position of thereby saying, well, let's throw up our hands. It's chronic and there's nothing we can do. It's clearly reached sort of a crisis proportion now. We're getting calls on our office. New York Magazine is talking about it. Every Upper East. I just walked home from Grand Central up to Carnegie Hill, dodging piles of dog poo every block, even on Park Avenue. And so I think we do need to look at a number of measures. We should consider, and I'll take it up with the council member, increasing the amount of the fine.
Mhm.
I'm loath to say in this day and age of public shaming on media with phones, but there is an obvious self-enforcement mechanism available to people in terms of trying to catch neighbors or other New Yorkers violating this ordinance. And that might, conceivably, I don't want to be in the position of encouraging people to go snoop on their neighbors on the street with camera phones. But it's hard to see how sanitation is going to be able to catch people more
Mhm.
effectively. You literally have to catch the dog in the act, and then the pet owner walking away. And
Mhm.
only then can a summons be issued.
Yeah.
So it
Um,
is the other thing, there is this perennial issue with the bird lady outside the Metropolitan Museum. But that's a separate kind of very specific case that maybe we should
Mhm.
save for later. But we are here. We are getting dog poop complaints in the office. I'm fielding them
Mhm.
myself on the phone. So, there's a problem here, and it does need to be dealt with. I don't have
Yeah.
any great immediate solutions to offer, but
Mhm.
we're here to listen.
I just have a suggestion that I think half the battle might be just educating the dog owners that this is not just something that impacts, a person like me who doesn't have a dog, who's walking on the road, but it's also your dog itself. Because if they walk through that poop and their feet are not washed, they're not wearing those little, shoes that they wear at times, they can get infected, and then they would be going to the vet, which would cost them a lot. This is something that pains their dog. And maybe, can we request from your office that maybe you can have some, like, once a month or twice a month information session that someone comes in to one of these parks where people are taking their dogs, at the dog runs, and maybe making it like, hey, every second Friday, same time, the person shows up from and again, coming from, from your office, leadership coming from your office in this regard, and having that education moment, conversation with those that are present. And I feel like if you speak with few and give them flyers and say, hey, because they're all on WhatsApp groups, they can then disperse it to many more. And if you make it a personal thing for them, I feel like they will be more receptive to making a change. But we would love if, and that would, I think, be one of the, I'm so sorry for that. One of the things, but the second is, of course, the, kind of enforcing that, like kind of, charging them but then you have to catch them during the act. But if we can just preempt it with education.
I do think a public education campaign could help, and it would be, I think we should talk to DSNY, our office, and see if we can use some of those mobile electronic kiosks that we see advertise some government sponsored messages or from government agencies. And then obviously we can try to do, what's called earned media and try to just generate some publicity on this as well, and certainly try to include mentions in newsletters, if we can have space for that and so on. So I definitely I think that's a great idea, and I will take that back to the office.
That would be great. And in fact, maybe even some of those the newspapers and magazines that are for the Upper East, we can have, if you can, like, coming from your office, if you engage them and say, hey, have this, we're doing a campaign and let's do it together. And maybe even if a month we do that together in like totality, like all those aspects, it might just leave that in mind of everyone, that this impacts your dog and you yourself. Find you're wearing a shoe, but your dog is not. And that might just stop them from doing it. But thank you so much for looking into it.
I will. And, another point, it's sort of ancillary, but it's not just the dogs walking outside. All of us, if we step in that, unless we immediately are removing our shoes, and I don't happen to do it when I come home, we're tracking that stuff inside our homes. And then if you decide, or if you have kids who are running around barefoot, I mean, we all know what, ends up happening. So it's not just the dog's feet that get really filthy from this. It's us too.
Exactly.
It's our fellow New Yorkers. So it really is, it's disgusting.
True.
Yeah. Thank you, Sahar and Bryce, for that. I think that that's a fantastic suggestion, Sahar. And I'm appreciative that, Bryce, you're willing to take that into account back to the office.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I see Carol has her hand up again.
I think Carol cannot.
Maybe let's try sending her the prompt one more time. Looks like we're working on that.
Still not appearing.
All right.
There we go.
Awesome.
One quick question and then one observation. Would it be possible to increase the number of dogs with licenses? And with the licenses, when they get their license, have that, have an education program then. And what Sahar was saying is very good, but I think that's a good point. When somebody is taking on the responsibility of adopting a dog or a pet, that at that point they have to be educated as to, the ramifications of what happens when they take their dog out and don't clean up after it. It's not, they just don't seem to be aware. And I think that's a good point. Can we do something about expanding the number? I mean, I don't understand why not all dogs are licensed. And I know they're not, because the number of dogs now outpaces the number of children, I think, on the so and that's not a joke. So as of 2025, so why are not all dogs licensed? And that's a good way for the city also to make sure they're vaccinated, that they're taken care of. These people are being responsible for their dogs, and to reinforce these educational aspects of what dog owners need to know. Can we do something about that? And aside from that, and I'll put this out there, I think it would be difficult to enforce, but in Italy, I know that in some towns, they've actually gotten to the point where they have DNA testing. So dogs need to have a sample, and they do DNA testing, and that way they're able to track down the dogs which are responsible, and then there are huge fines for that. So people have to understand that there are going to be repercussions, because I just don't think some people care at all. There seems to be a sense of entitlement that I don't understand, but it's there. If you try to ask people nicely and they're, oh, I can't control the dog. It's, just they come up with, I mean, they're just, or just not understanding, taking dogs where they shouldn't be and not being considerate of other people. There's something that needs to change there. So I would say go the route of trying to increase and compliance with, they could start with that, with compliance, going out to the neighborhood with seeing dogs that do not have their licenses and the ID tags, and start finding them. Yeah. And proceed from there and use that as an education. You have a dog, this is your responsibility. You're supposed to have a license, your dog has to be vaccinated, they need all their shots, etc. And they also, and these are the things you have to pick up after your dog.
I think it's a great point. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm happy to make conjectures. I don't know if anyone else has an answer to that question. I mean, I guess my conjecture would be a matter of enforcement. And I know it's not a super satisfactory answer, because I assume that, with so many people moving to the city, they bring dogs. How do we sort of track down who has a dog, who doesn't have a dog? But I guess, and not to put even more work onto your plate, but maybe that's something that the council member can look into, if that's something that she might want to take on.
I do think that DNA concept is actually used in some cities in the US. I'm just sort of having some kind of recovered memory here. And so that would be worth, I think, exploring. I can hear, the budget mavens, screaming about how much would that cost, et cetera. But I think it's definitely worth exploring. And if it is if it has been practicable in other cities, it's certainly something we could look at here. I have to admit, I was not aware that not all dogs were licensed.
They're not. No.
I don't own pets myself, and so I'm a little, you caught me flat-footed on that one. I'm not quite sure. I guess if one moves into the city, you would sort of on the owner to get around to getting that dog licensed in that particular jurisdiction. But there's no real enforcement on that, I guess. I'd have to look into that more. I'm not sure, but it's possible that, we could, as is being discussed with licensing all bicycles, it's possible we could start the ball rolling on, if you live in New York City and you have a dog here, you need to register it and get it licensed.
Right.
It also would probably have fiscal implications, and we're in a period right now where a lot of fiscal anxiety over the city budget. So I don't want to promise the moon, but there's no reason we couldn't start looking into some of these. I think the DNA and the licensing could definitely be strengthened on both scores there. It would be really worth exploring.
And they should be wearing the tag on their tag, the number, so that we know that it has a license.
Right.
And frankly, that could make money for the city.
Exactly.
If you get a dog license, then you're making money for the city. So it's actually a win-win situation.
And it protects the pets too. So it is a win-win. It keeps them healthier. And then again, it's the opportunity to educate people that this is a responsibility that they have also to their pet. If you want to try to make it more palatable. Yeah.
Another place is the vets, their offices. If there is, again, we don't want to burden you so much with all of these ideas, but if it is workable, that the vets in our district, if there could be a form or a brochure or something that can be dropped to them so that they can put it up really visible, so that anyone who walks in with their dog, they read about it, that it's going to impact your own dog too if you don't pick up, because someone else might not do it and your dog might just step into it. And these are the different diseases that, foot diseases or paw diseases that your dog can get. And then, this is what happens. So this could be something that maybe made by a vet, but kind of in every vet's office, really visible. not, I don't know if that's something possible as well for you, Bryce. So sorry, we're just adding on different
No,
ideas.
it's not a
But this
bad
is
idea. And
combination.
then that could also be turned into a flyer to be distributed at dog
Mhm.
runs, maybe.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
I do
Exactly.
want to note there's also dog licensing events that's run through New York City Health. And I just
Mhm.
posted that in the chat if anyone wants to look and read that. Of course, it's posted in there with several other resources regarding it.
Awesome.
Nice, nice.
Lori, I see that Dean has his hand up. Would you mind if I went to a member of the public first and then I'll go to you? Perfect. Awesome. So we'll call on Dean.
Hey, how
Hi,
are
guys.
you? This is
Good.
Dean. I'm Bob.
Nice
We
to see
own
you.
a four-unit townhouse on 92nd Street, East 92nd Street, off
Mhm.
Lexington and Third. We feel like property owners, building owners need to really discuss animal maintenance with your tenants. We don't
Mhm.
allow animals because of all the problems that we've had over the years. We just do not do that. But we're constantly sweeping up our sidewalk and cleaning up. We pick up dog poop every day. It's just disgusting. We have to put our trash cans out there on trash day. I've got to get up at 7 o'clock and bring them in before people start dropping poop into our cans. At least it's in a bag, but nobody ever thinks about the landlords having to really discuss animal maintenance
Mhm.
because it affects everybody. I mean, some people let their dogs go in the hallways. We don't have that. We have a nice building. This is why we don't allow pets because we know what goes on out there.
Mhm.
But talk to people that own these buildings and say, this is part of your responsibility too. You're allowing somebody to move into your building with a dog. Part of what the dog does is exactly what your tenants do.
Mhm.
And that's responsibility that you should have also.
I think that that's a brilliant idea. And I think that that really gets to the idea of this being a community effort, which is, it takes a village. And I think having landlords talk to their tenants about this issue, whether it's picking up after their dog or not feeding birds outside, I think it's a great point. And maybe what we can do is have a flyer that, multi-purpose flyer, one that can go to vets, one that can go to dog parks, one that can go to tenants or landlords to give to their tenants to say, like, look, we're all in this together. Like, this is how we solve this problem together and sort of urge a community cultural mindset shift as well.
Yeah, and especially with having that this is the fine that you will might face if you're caught in action, basically. So I think having that a landlord can give to the tenant, because then it shows that like, hey, I'm there for you. I don't want you to get that fine, and so
Well,
that way the information out.
and that's true
Great
too.
idea.
And
Yeah.
I think that adding a situation where, this is part of your responsibility by allowing a tenant to have a pet.
Mhm.
And it can't all be left to your neighbor next door to have to clean it up. That
Mhm.
if your tenant, again, this is why we don't allow pets because of this, because we clean up enough of our neighbor's mess that we don't want
Yeah.
to have to deal with it. And I listen, I love dogs. I just don't want to have to deal with the mess that comes along with it. And we'd
Mhm.
run a very clean, wonderful building. And let landlords know that, you know what, part of this responsibility is yours. By
Mhm.
letting somebody with a dog come into your building, you should be partially responsible. I'm a landlord advocate, so this is not anti-landlord, just anti-dog poop.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So anyway, I think it would be a good idea to let landlords know that, hey, you allow animals into your building. If they cause a mess, you could be somewhat responsible for that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just, they're responsible for enough of everything else, so you might as well throw that in there too. So
yeah, like some form of like responsibility sharing, perhaps in terms of
Yeah.
the fines,
Yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah. Or at least give everybody the idea that if you're going to be, or if you're going to be, if you're going to allow, if we allow you to bring your dog in and we
Mhm.
find out that your dog is causing problems in the neighborhood, you're not allowed to live here anymore, or you're going to get a fine or
Sure,
something.
yeah. Or so, yeah,
So,
exactly. Whether it's a flyer or some sort of
yeah.
outreach to be like, hey, like
Yeah,
do something about
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just they got to do something because I will tell you, it's kids. They walk by, and we have an old 1850s building that's recessed. We have a fence in the front of it, and I'll look out the second story window and look down and watch kids walk by, looking at their telephone, and let their dog just pee right in our front gate. Like you have to step over pee to get inside the house, or poop and leave it there. That it's like, why are you? It's just they're oblivious. It
Mhm.
just it's you have to smack some sense into some of these kids because this is who's doing it.
Mhm.
And although I will say I did see an older guy the other day walk by and let a dog pee right in my next door neighbor's front door.
Mhm.
It's not just kids. It's just people who are oblivious.
Yeah. And it's that mindset shift too
And
to sort
the
of
guy that was just on there is from Carnegie Hill, so he knows what's going on.
Well, I'm a car owner, so catching owners letting dogs pee on my car
Pee on
is,
your dog on your wheels. I know.
yeah, it's probably an everyday occurrence
I
almost.
know. I know. I know. So you get it. You know what's going on.
But I guess my version is just very short. I think that is that with all of the sanitation rules, composting, recycling, and everything, a landlord has to be very much on top to educate, especially new tenants. And
Mhm.
occasionally you do have to like check and, talk to your tenants about this. And some of the buildings on our block are non-living, super, non-doorman buildings. And the issues, I mean, it's a mess right now down in front of 173 or 175 East 92nd Street with trash all over it. It's
Mhm.
the tenants you'll see come out and they don't know where to put the trash and they just put the trash right on the curb on, a Friday night that it'll sit there until Monday. So maybe buildings can put into their leases or rules, but let tenant know, like maybe a pamphlet that a
Mhm.
landlord can give a new tenant on sanitation laws of what the city expects of you as a tenant.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Um, awesome. Yeah, no, and I think that's something. I think that sort of dovetails with just like general, like let's get some like informational stuff out to just start educating people on this.
Yeah,
Um,
we've been here for 33 years and we've gone through so many, from David Dinkins all the way through. So we've been here. And
But I
I
will
will
say
tell you,
every time there's a major snow, it does get
yeah,
bad.
this was the worst snow I've ever experienced, where it held on so long. So
mhm.
it's a little bit of compassion we have for the trash pickup.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it stayed too cold too long. So
But
I get that.
we thank you guys. We've
Thanks,
taken up too
guys.
much
Thank you
time.
so much. Yeah, of course.
Thank
Thank you for your
Thanks.
help.
Yeah, thank you,
Um,
Dean and Bob.
let's go to Lori. I know that she's been waiting patiently. And then while she's unmuting, we're gonna try to shift gears at like 7:15, 7:20 to Professor Selecki, just so that we can be respectful of his time as well.
Okay, I'll be brief. First of all, a couple of points. I am, in full disclosure, a proud dog owner, and I love my dog, and I am responsible for my dog, and I don't go outside without like a bunch of bags to pick up her poop. So that's number one. And what I have noticed, and this is after 40 years of living in New York City, is that when it snows, suddenly there's an abdication of responsibility, and people don't feel like they have to pick up their poop. I don't know why.
Exactly.
I don't know why they think that, but it's true. It happened every time there's been a snow. All of a sudden, it starts them, leaving it around. But I don't know what the answer is, but I do think that the veterinarian offices would be a really good place, because there you'll get the responsible dog owners who will understand. Like my dog, to be honest with you, like I had to train her not to eat poop, because she was like eating it. And there is, she can get giardia, like that's, really common disease, and she had it for a really long time because she was, not behaving correctly. But anyway, I do think that the signs in the vet's offices would be really good. The other question about licenses that was brought up, there are when you go to get a dog license, there are two different fees. There's it's really cheap if your dog has been fixed. My dog has been fixed, and so she only pays like $8 or something for her license fee. But it's a much more, like, it's, I don't know, $25. I don't remember the exact amount, but it's significantly more if you don't have the dogs, spayed or fixed. And that, to me, is kind of like goes along with the irresponsibility aspect of having a dog, because you really need to get it fixed. And if you don't get it fixed, you might be the kind of person who doesn't care at all about leaving the poop around. So I'm not sure that the licenses are going to solve the problem, is what I'm saying. But just for information. So yeah, that's really all I have to say, is that I think the vet offices would be a really good place, to do it. And I'm going to write an article for the New Yorker that talks about, shouts and murmurs. What is it about snow that makes people, think that they don't have to pick up after their dog? It's ridiculous.
Anyway. I think that that's a fantastic idea, and the vet idea is great, and I look forward to that New Yorker article.
And I'm quite stunned, like Lori, what you just mentioned, that your dog was eating it. So I mean, that's even that's so scary for dog owners as well.
Yeah.
So it literally impacts each person. We just have to be more kind of notice it, right?
Yeah.
So vet's office would be the best idea then for that.
Just want to clarify to Lori that it's $34 for dogs that are over 4 months.
Okay,
That's when they have a $34 fee on it, basically. It's
Right.
usually $8.50 per year for a license.
Right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. And then we'll go to Danielle.
Yeah, no, I really do appreciate you guys, being really proactive with ideas and suggestions. I don't think we've had enough of that. I think just making noise over this issue is going to help solve a lot of it, because when you're just silent, people think it's okay, and it just gets worse and worse. So even educational pamphlets, even having our district leaders really get in on this and say enough is enough is a first dent to this issue. So if you guys need any help and what messaging we could put out, or what kind of pamphlets, we need to get this out ASAP, because I really don't think we could take on another month, another 2 months into the summer with this, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
And if we get the pamphlets, we could also, Daniel, I was thinking maybe also, like Lori was mentioning, writing about this, but also on the social media, kind of having that element. So again, something, if we can, again, asking you, requesting you, if you have something that could be used, because there's so many WhatsApp groups as well. There's so many social media groups as well, where this could be posted, the flyer. So it's literally floods the neighborhood. And people get the idea, hey, this is really impacting me. And there's also a fine if I get caught. So that kind of might make people do it right.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. So I just wanted to see if anyone else has any final comments, and then I'll sort of try to tie some stuff together, talk about what potential next steps could be, and then we'll go on to Professor Selecki. So if anyone wants to add any additional comments, floor is yours. And if not, I mean, what I'll say is I think sort of 3 themes came up today, varying levels of density of how much they came up. But I think 3 things under this umbrella of sidewalk cleanliness, the first being dog waste. And it sounds like what we can do sort of in the interim is work on, getting some sort of pamphlet together for vets, landlords, dog owners. We can look into sort of licensing, increased licensing and increased fines. So I don't know, maybe if we have this conversation when we have Speaker Menon's office come in to do an update, I don't know if maybe Bryce, you want to come back with some updates on what you can find from your end.
I will do my best. I don't,
Yep.
I don't know that I'll have major
No
progress
promises. Yes.
in a month. But I will certainly do my best. We do have some budgetary limitations, so I was careful to kind of say earned media, i.e. newspapers media, rather than, because I just don't know what kind of budget we might have for advertising.
Exactly.
But I'd be happy. I will look into it.
Perfect. Awesome. And we'll probably, have another, we meet 3 or 4 times a year. So we'll have a decent chunk of time between now and the next meeting, but I'm glad that we're continuing to keep this ball rolling. Second theme is obviously the bird waste. And I think that's again, sort of a matter of enforcement. Maybe what we can do is get people, out there, sort of just, enforcement officials, someone's, throwing, breadcrumbs, be like, hey, like, let's not do this. And if we can have solid enforcement for 2 weeks, maybe the birds will learn this is not a place where it can have food anymore. And then the final theme that I heard was snow and getting the snow picked up earlier. And so as we mentioned with John, maybe we can ask DSNY to take a second look at the Upper East Side and making sure that we're getting this cleaned up quickly. All right. So does anyone else have anything to add? If not, we will move to okay, Carol, yes.
Just one quick question. I double checked, to see when you could call 311. If you can call if you're having a problem with dog waste in your area, for example, in our SAC. The problem is it's so constant that our staff of 2, we're the 4 black and whites at the end of the block, we can't keep up with. They'd have to be out there day and night to hose down and to pick up. So if I call or we call to say we have a problem on our block, we can get fined. So how do we avoid getting fined, but have someone come down to see how bad the neighborhood is and what the issue is, so they have an understanding of how bad the situation is? How do we do that?
I mean, I guess one idea that comes to mind is call your local representatives. I don't want to speak for our community board office, but I'm sure we'd be happy to. I'm sure John and the rest of the team would be happy to field calls and forward that along. And then the elected officials' offices, that's what they're there for. So, and that's what we're here for as well. So, please feel free to reach out to us.
All right, we'll do that then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just so I can understand, so the issue being that property owners are being unfairly summoned or ticketed or fined because conditions on the street are kind of chronically dirty through no fault of their own. That's it in a nutshell?
You can't, well, according to, what I've read, if you're responsible for keeping your sidewalk clean, and we certainly try, but it's just, the number is it's a constant flow of dogs. We can't keep on top of it. They're out there with the hoses. They're out there, scooping it up. And I've even gone out there. I've gone after the bird feeders, gone out and scooped up the bird seed and stuff like that. But you can't stay on top of it. I think that's, I understand that property owners are supposed to be on top of it, but you can't, because the problem is out of control. So that's where I think we need some intervention, that somebody comes and stands and watches and says, I'm from the city, you've got to clean up after your dog. Or I try to say thank you to people when they make it to the curb, that actually know what a curb is. So they make it to the curb instead of all over the place. But it's really out of control. And that's, I think we need some collaboration, so that some more support for property owners, as well as, people who live in the city, whatever, trying to keep the sidewalks clean, because it's just too much for us to deal with. We don't have street sweepers or I don't think so. I haven't seen any, and I can't remember when. So, and the other issue is what's going into the, what goes into the snow goes into the water. That's getting melted, and what is getting picked up in the snow goes into the water. So that's ending up in the East River. It's ending up and that's another issue. So it's something that we need help with in terms of dealing with it. I think we need a face for somebody who can enforce the laws as opposed to us standing out there, because they don't pay attention to us, no matter how nicely you ask or whatever. It really, we need some help. I think that's my message. We need help.
And we hear the calls for help, and we're gonna do our best.
Thank you.
Awesome. So let's go now to Professor Selecki for his presentation, and the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks so much. I will say I've been hearing the conversation. I'm not a local resident. I live in New Jersey, so I have my own burdens of particularly NJ Transit, a few other things. But we have also noted recently that I don't know, Laura, you mentioned, I don't know what happens when it snows, but people decide that, hey, it's the Wild West. Like, there's so much dog poop also winding up in suburban New Jersey. It's really quite shocking. We're trying to figure out, well, why is that? Like, what happens? But it definitely is a widespread issue. I guess the one minor thing, I live in an old pre-war suburb, so it's fairly dense, but we have a problem of also deer poop, which is, deer are everywhere, but that's a whole different topic. But again, thanks so much for taking a little bit of time and to hear the proposal. I do have a slide deck. I'm not sure if I sent it to John, if that's the one that you're going to use, or I have one that's also available to share.
Yes, I have the presentation. You want me to share it on our end?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Want to share it on our end, or were you going to screen share? Apologies.
I can do either side, either way. Maybe I'll do it so I can sort of run through it, so you're not burdened by that. So let me go to the slide deck.
Bit of access, so just wanted to,
cool. And so you should see it now, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Okay. So again, thanks so much. This will just be a couple of minutes, but so I'm a geographer. Done a lot of work on urban sustainability issues. We've been connected to something on campus at Hunter College called the Center for Sustainable Cities. One of the things that we've been really interested in is sort of connecting the work that's going on at Hunter, with the community. And what we're trying to push forward, this is a kind of a collaborative effort of a number of faculty here at Hunter, but is this something called the Campus and Community Environmental Sustainability Program. And really my presentation tonight, this is a discussion that we're having, and we definitely want to outreach to the local communities to sort of get their perspective on how this can be meaningful to them as well. So I'll just say a couple of things as a preamble, then go through a couple of slides. This is also, we're getting tremendous support from Hunter President's Office, Nancy Cantor, who really is interested in creating kind of an anchor institution concept between Hunter and the surrounding communities, but also echoes a lot of the work that I've done over the years. I was the co-chair of the New York City panel on climate change. I've done a lot of other work for the city of New York with respect to sort of developing new science that could be of use to the city of New York, to communities, et cetera. And one of the elements of that has been this sort of concept of how do you connect institutions of higher ed to communities in a long-term and kind of proactive, collaborative way with those communities. And some of this sort of echoes some of the land grant institutions of higher ed, but also the civic engagement opportunities, as well as the more recent understanding that sometimes the best research is really that sort of connects with interests and demands of local residents and the communities in which they're part of, and to sort of have that as an opportunity to enhance the well-being of the community. in a long-term sustained way. I think I want to kind of echo that point throughout the conversation here, that what we're talking about is not sort of like a one-time engagement, but developing a long-term, relationship with the community with respect to research opportunities and things that we can provide meaningful information. So I'm just going to go through a couple of slides just to illustrate some of these points, and then kind of open it up for conversation. So some of the stuff I've just said, kind of are echoed in this slide, but it really is designed to be sort of a hub for a series of programmatic engagements with communities to sort of, both, and I'll talk more specifically about the types, but sort of broadly defined on environmental sustainability issues, quality of life, well-being, hazards, and of course, even the issue that you guys have been responding to today, sanitation issues, more specifically, and waste is could be, part of that remit. And, we have lots of different kind of emerging examples. There already are a number of classes at Hunter where students are going out and doing projects in the community. We also have emerging at the undergraduate level capstone projects where a lot of the, seniors are developing these extended projects where they're doing really interesting work. And what we want to try to do is to sort of have that done in a more coordinated fashion that engages with local communities for a couple of reasons. I think most importantly is that it will provide this database, this long-term database for our students who are coming in and doing a research project. So let's say a student does a project 1 year, develop it. Let's say, for example, we're talking about, sanitation and waste, and, do some, field work to sort of document the problem that you guys are just illustrating. We can get student project can sort of go out there and provide, information regarding that. And then that becomes a database, which then could be built on in subsequent years, as example. As I've mentioned, there's a lot of interest in sort of, at least from my work, and then the also going all the way up through the Hunter president, is to sort of connect with the communities around Hunter. And this includes obviously Community Board 8. We also have a presence, as you're probably familiar, in Community Board 11, so in East Harlem, and through some previous engagements, also connecting with some of the other community boards in coincident areas or adjacent areas in the South Bronx. Very different communities, very different needs, very different issues, but nonetheless all with different sort of potential areas of connection that we think this partnership program could be meaningful. So these are the different geographies, just to sort of blow it out a little bit. You can see the different community boards, and we've tried to develop some initial connections with each one of these boards and try to understand what are some project areas, what are some needs, what are some opportunities where Hunter faculty and staff could contribute. Now, I have to say one thing. I have to leave for a moment. I apologize. I'm sitting in my office, very energy efficient. For some reason, I haven't moved for a little while. The sensor thought I wasn't here anymore, so it went dark. Now I moved again. So there you have it. So this is just a little bit of the overall program overview, this partnership with community-based organizations. So it's certainly the community boards. It's an interest of mine in sort of engaging with community boards such as your board, but also NGOs, other sort of community groups that operate in those locales, and that they could students could conduct group projects, individual projects, data analysis, field work, et cetera, not only in the sciences and related fields, but also there's a rich vein of research, student interest and faculty interest in documentary histories and other sort of more sort of humanities-oriented engagements with communities to sort of illustrate that we've got a lot of things going on with extreme weather recently and some climate change issues. We also want to develop this sort of online shareable database. So this could be accessible to boards such as yourself or others, different student projects. And again, the idea is that it'll be a cumulative process. We'll have one projects, let's say this year, another set of projects next year. Students can use that as a resource base, but the community also could use it as a resource base. We want to have also public discussions and sort of these research findings become part of a kind of an ongoing policy dialogue. We have, of course, Hunter's Roosevelt House, which has become an important, venue for this kind of forum and debate. And we can sort of, bring together different, the research community, the community, the residential community, the practitioner community, others to sort of debate and try to, forward some of these issues in a kind of a real-time fashion through some of those opportunities. Again, some of the processes, products, I mean, it's kind of echoing some of the things I've already said, that this database, this is not only, we also have a lot of environmental sensing capacity and monitoring indicator systems that could be part of this engagement, the documentary, the database, interviews, films, oral histories, et cetera, that might be of value. Developing, community created strategies and policy recommendations, these policy-focused events, and then also research and training opportunities, within that could be provided for communities, at particular levels, that might be relevant. And again, recognizing there's a variety of different needs across all these different communities that we're thinking about. We've got, range of different topics. We've had some conversations with some of the other community boards, some of the other community NGOs that operate. These are sort of reflective of some of the thematic elements that I know are emerging. We've done also a lot of faculty strength in like urban greening, extreme heat mitigation, street trees, afforestation, air quality issues, really clear link between air quality and vegetation, not only at the outside, but also inside, recognize that vegetation and plants inside also provide a lot of opportunity for enhanced air quality. And we spend most of our time indoors. Food security and insecurity issues, there's a range of these kinds of questions that sort of range, again, across the different communities. Certainly in some communities, there are food deserts and also a very significant role of community gardens. There's a lot of conversation, in these locales about energy transitions and what about, what does solar mean to the building? What is, what are low, the connection between, new proposed alternative energies or other sorts of questions regarding energy. And of course, connected to that is issues of, making sure that these don't result in unexpected implications for residents, for property owners, and of course, energy justice issues. We know, of course, in other communities, maybe not as much in Community Board 11, some people can't even pay on a month-by-month basis for their air conditioning. So it sort of runs the gamut, of course. Flooding is something that is widespread as an issue. This is not only the storm surge from large storm events and like sort of Hurricane Sandy type things, but also these significant deluges, that are part of. We also recognize past impacts of things like Hurricane Ida. I added sanitation in real time based on conversations that you guys talked about, which is a real issue. We're actually beginning on campus this semester a huge campus-wide initiative focused on waste. And this is more on student use, student waste issues, but it is a signature issue that is so telling about a community. And so I certainly sort of would put that forward as an opportunity. So what are we doing now? We're doing outreach like this. We're doing some, kind of deep listening, so seeing what people say. We are going to have an organizational kind of conversation coming up in early March, and it would be great to have somebody from CB11 or more than one person there to participate in that conversation. That will become like a beginning document that we can then sort of further refine, and then maybe launching this process later in the spring. We're looking for potential funding sources. We have some seed money. As I said, the Hunter President's Office has been very aggressive in this space, provided some seed money for us, but we're looking for larger scale funding, which is sort of part of the process. And these are some of the things that we've been looking at for that. This workshop, as I mentioned, this is kind of a first point of engagement. If this conversation makes sense and there's like somebody who's interested, we'd be more than happy to have one or two or more folks from CB11 to come to the conversation. This will be coming up on January, March 6th, which is a Friday. We have some space available for that meeting, figuring it might be a fair time obviously there's no one good time, but that's late afternoon, early evening, to talk about sort of the themes for the engagement and sort of map out some of this partnership structure. With that, I'll pause. I'm sorry if I spoke too quickly. I mean, but I know I'm among friends, and you can sort of all follow along really fast. I taught at 10 o'clock this morning, so I still have some of that conversation capacity in me to kind of talk fast. So I'll stop there unless you want to sort of look at this feedback, thoughts. It's just like, is this working for you guys? What makes sense? What should we change? What else would you like to see? Because this is really something we want to try to really make work for the community around us. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Professor Seletsky. That sounds amazing. And I don't want to speak for Sahar, but I would be happy to go to the event on March 6th to sort of represent this committee and sort of build that partnership.
Yeah, I would love that too. It sounds so amazing. I just have one, this was such an amazing presentation. I'm so happy and like so grateful to you and your team that you are doing all of this work and engaging, community service organizations and, elected officials and community boards. I was just wondering, what about schools? You have so many private schools and public schools just in our CB8 space. What about engaging them, like doing the same presentation with the PA? I'm so sorry for this.
Sure. No.
And then kind of engaging those students. They all have their green clubs.
It's a really great point. It's been brought up. What we want to do, and I think that will certainly be part of the portfolio, because we know, particularly, 8th through 12th grade, high school, even younger, are really engaged in this question, trying to make a difference, understanding that, sometimes little things can make a big difference. They also have a lot of access to, ever increasing sophisticated, like, they can use their smartphones to gather data, citizen science sort of programs. So it's very much, in our perspective, I think what we're trying to do is start small or tight, in the sense of like, let's work with some key partners, like CB11 and others, to sort of say, okay, how is this really going to work, and sort of create the partnership structure, and then test it out, run it around a little bit, and then sort of build out. But the schools have definitely been brought up, and it's a great suggestion.
Thank you. Sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just had a question about how we can sort of partner with you all and with your students. I know that one of the things that got talked about in this presentation and then throughout this meeting is this issue of sanitation as it relates to, and I was a statistics major in college last year, and so not too long ago. So I know that there's that there could possibly be sort of data collection surrounding these sorts of issues, and to what extent could we work with your students to try to partner with them to get some data on this?
Well, I will say, I mean, again, the idea, of course, is to try to develop, not a memorandum, not an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, but more of like, what's the mission of this? What's the partnership, and that kind of stuff. That being said, if you have like, and this is in real time, because students are, developing projects for the semester, and as I said, we have capstone projects. If if there's a specific need, we could continue the conversation, and I could sort of send that out. We have like, I'm in the geography and environmental science program here at Hunter. I could send out a notice saying, hey, there's an interest in, from CB11 on this issue. If anyone's interested, still looking for a good research project, here is a potential partner. And, that's something we could do immediately, aside from this sort of partnership.
That would be awesome. Maybe you, me, Sahar, and a couple of members from the board executive committee can all sort of get together to see what ways we can create a project or a partnership.
Great. That would be exciting. I mean, again, that's, we've had some classes that have been orchestrated this way to sort of do, community projects. In some ways, the problem is that it's sort of like it's, you know, they students kind of parachute in, they do the project and then they leave. What we're trying to really develop is a mechanism where there's this long-term engagement, like, you know, I mean, you know, multi-decadal would be the ambition, right? And so it's sort of like, so someone could look back and, hey, what, didn't somebody do a project on that like a couple of years ago? Oh yeah, that's a project on sanitation and CB11. You know, that was interesting, but why don't we update that in this particular way, use that database and update it. And so that's the kind of stuff that we're hoping for.
That would be super exciting. And CB8 is not going anywhere, so we can hopefully be multi-decado for that.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what, you know, to be honest, but you know, I mean, the community boards to me are just like I mean, you guys live this, but are such a fascinating institutional structure to provide this kind of facility that I'm excited to work with you guys.
Thank you.
I'd love to do so too.
Great.
Awesome. Are there any other questions from board members or members of the public or other representatives who are here?
Thank you, Professor. No, thank you.
Great. Thanks.
I just want to add that John has shared I think the presentation in the chat. So please, if anyone wants to like look at it as well and have it, because it was so wonderful. It was amazing. So thank you for that. So it's available for all of you.
Thank you. And I realize I might have mistakenly said CB11 when I should have said CB8. I got it. I got it.
Don't worry at all. Don't
My
worry
bad.
at all.
I'm sure you're working with all the boards. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I didn't, you know,
the same work.
I'm trying to think rationally, like, why is 8 next to 11? I shouldn't it be like, you know, I don't know.
The numbering is weird. It always gets me.
Well, I think it goes this way up Manhattan.
Yeah,
I think that's what it does.
Exactly. Awesome. So, does anyone have any issues of new business or old business? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll be in touch with both of you then, you know, regarding next steps. Perfect.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much.